I'm Susan Green. I work for Caterpillar as a paving territory manager. I cover 3 dealers, Ziegler Cat, Fabic Cat, and Altorfer Cat, and they span 5 states in the Midwest. I have been in this role for coming up on 4.5 years now, but I have been with Caterpillar for 14.5 years. My experience is one where I did feel very much like, not so much with my dealers, just because I've worked at Caterpillar for a while. So I had a lot of people internally within Caterpillar that had contacts with the dealers I covered that kind of put in a good word for me ahead of time. But most of the customers, you definitely have to show up on a job site. I've had to know what I was talking about right off the bat, and more so than, my male counterparts before me. Now, I've not had it as bad. One of the women that used to cover my same dealers a few years ago, most of the guys go in and they know shipping weight, operating weight, and horsepower of the machine, and that's about all they need to know. She had to know exactly how much hydraulic fluid, fuel, just information that customers wouldn't ask their male counterparts about. I've not run into that, and I don't know if it's because other women come ahead of me. But I have definitely had where almost every single one of my dealers, the salesman or the paving specialist, will call me later and say, hey, thanks for coming out today on the job site. The guys made a point to call and say, and this is how they say it, for being a woman, you really know what you're talking about. And it's unfortunate that they have to preface that, but at the same time, it's nice that my dealers appreciate and the help that I give them, and that they can rely on me. I also think I was a little bit of an advantage coming into this. When I went to Purdue, you could, within ag and biological engineering, you pick 3 different sub-disciplines. And so you could either do food science or environmental engineering or machine systems design. And most of the women went into the food science end. I was the only one that did the machine systems. So I've kind of always been on my own or had very little female interaction. So I think from the very beginning, it was just like, well, this whole time I've always picked something where I'm in the minority, and that's okay. And so, and also I think I've really had a lot of great guys. Like I said, I had people within Caterpillar putting a good word with me with the paving specialist, and then the paving specialists were then turning around and saying, yeah, you can go and come with me and talk to my customers, So that's one thing that's helped. And I would guess that would be my biggest advice to women is find, there's a lot of men allies out there, and to find those allies and leverage that. Also, don't walk in the room afraid, like, oh my gosh, I'm the only woman here. Walk in the room like, yeah, I'm the only woman here. I'm going to show them how it's done. Having a lot of confidence helps. We actually did within Caterpillar, we have a Breakthrough Leadership for Women conference. It's a couple-day conference that your supervisors can nominate you for. And that was one of the biggest things was, guys just naturally have a lot of confidence, even if they know nothing about what they're talking about. They walk in the room with confidence. But we as women are like, oh, I need to know every single thing about this before I have confidence. But she was just like, just walk in there. She said, walk in there, have confidence. Even if you need to step into the bathroom before you go in the conference room and do, there's a TED Talk about do the Wonder Woman pose for 2 minutes. She's like, it's amazing how standing up straight, rolling your shoulders back, in just 2 minutes, staring yourself in the mirror, saying, I've got this, walking in, and then walking in with that same confidence really helps. So that was one thing. When I went through that, I was like, oh, I don't do that. I wasn't doing that every time I walked in the room, but it was like after that conference that really helped. Like, okay, I belong here. It's just because I'm the only woman doesn't mean I don't belong here. And just walking in that room with confidence will get you a long way, because the guys will pick up on that, okay, even if you have no idea what you're talking about, or if you're just there to learn, like I was when I first started in the first year, I was showing up on job sites, not to come teach them, but to come learn from everybody. And so just having confidence really helps. Just the fact that, when I started Caterpillar, I was always told, be open to new opportunities. You never know what's going to come up. But at that time, I was very much going to stay on the engineering track, was going to design machines, so when this opportunity came up, it's like, oh, okay. And I think you can apply that to the asphalt industry. Is we're at the point where there's a lot, normally nobody likes change in asphalt, because if you make a change, then something happens with the mat and the mix and the road, and it changes a real struggle. But I think we're at that point where there's a lot of advancements with technology that's going to make things very interesting and easier for everybody long term. There's just, the more open to change I think this industry is, the better things are going to get. And being open to change also allows a lot of collaboration. So that's one thing that kind of excites me is, Minnesota is one of the states I cover. I walked in, they were already like 10 years down the journey of intelligent compaction and using the paver mounted thermal profiler, but they have a whole committee of people. Like, I'm on that committee representing the equipment side. There's contractors and there's MoDOT or MnDOT in the room. And it's great because you got this collaboration from all the people, because there's a lot of pieces and cogs in the whole asphalt industry. But when you can come together and work, all it does is make the roads better, long term for everybody. So that's what I think excites me most, is this recognition. Minnesota's not the only one. There's a lot of other states that are like, oh, okay, we can't, have the DOTs operating in one bubble and the contractors over here. Everybody needs to come to the table to make things better. And then the end result is companies like Caterpillar, where we're sitting there also hearing what the DOTs want and what the contractors need, and how do we all work together to come up with solutions that are better for everybody. So that's, I think change and collaboration are the two things that are the most exciting when it's done well in this industry. So biggest change is just adoption, making, there's technology out there, but making it easier, and I would even go so far as to make it even a little more affordable. There's a lot of good things that can come from it, but there's also, you need training when there's change involved. You need open-mindedness from everybody involved, and you need a level of understanding what the limitations are of the current technology. So I think that's, I don't know, probably open-mindedness, just having open-mindedness, having the ability to, everybody's learning, things aren't going to come right out of the box working, but being able to be open-minded and everybody working together to innovate and work out the bugs. Because there's, like I said, there's not a whole lot of people wanting to jump into the workforce. So there's some things on machine technology side and stuff that can overcome that. But it definitely means you can't keep doing things the same way. So I think I'm going to go with, that was interesting. Because like I said, this is not the job that I thought I was going to do. I started down this journey in 2013 when I was still in engineering, like wanting to go to the field, interviewing different people at Caterpillar as to, I want to go to the field, but then I also have long-term next steps beyond this job. How do I get from A to B? And this was not one of this, this wasn't one of the field positions I was looking at. I wanted to do sales for, our dirt equipment, because I was already designing the wheel loaders. So yeah, that was interesting is what I would define this career shift for me. So my legacy, I think, would be that, like I said, we've had other female paving territory managers, but I think my legacy would be that I had come along and proved that here I am, somebody that knew nothing about paving, like nothing, other than I drove on asphalt. That was as much as I knew. But that I came in the role and, one, change of perception of women in this industry, but also engineers too, because, in the asphalt industry, sometimes there's a lot of battling with your engineers from your DOT. So the fact that I'm both of those things and have come in and have earned everybody's respect, I want it to be easier for people coming behind me that are in that same way. Just open these guys' eyes, like, hey, you don't have to be somebody that came out of, was started out on the back of a screed to be able to teach guys how to run a paver. You can come from other places and provide the same sort of services that your paving specialists do. And yeah, so that would be my biggest legacy, is that I just sort of make things easier, open people's minds to there's different kinds of people that can work in this industry and be just as successful. So